Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. It's going to be a good one. This week, we're talking the NHL goes to Tahoe. Sidney Crosby hits his 1,000th game in the NHL. And have the Raptors rebounded? ? I'm Chris Dobson. Joining me from the Miramichi, as always, Gerry Green. Before we get into it, Gerry, big news coming out today as we record this, which is Tuesday. Tiger Woods, phenomenal superstar in the golf world. Tragic accident just outside LAX.
Yeah, shocking news today, Chris. And he was by himself at the time, but severe damage to his SUV that he was driving. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning out in Los Angeles. And, you know, they say he's gone under the knife. He's being operated on, whether or not it's serious, critical, or otherwise still sketchy. But what does it mean for Tiger Woods? I mean, he was hosting the Genesis tournament in California this weekend, and talked about maybe coming back for the Masters, which will probably be held in its normal date and time, and whether or not his back was still any good. But this is serious, Chris, and really put a lot of a doubt in the fact of Tiger Woods, not only this year, but even in coming years, you know, in years to come, will he ever have the opportunity to play golf again?
Absolutely. It certainly put the sports world on shock today. And I was reading all the condolences and all the kind words that were sent out to Tiger Woods and his family. It's absolutely mind-blowing. You never want to hear anything like this. I guess if you could take one thing out of it, the good news is Tiger Woods is all right. You talked about possibly being under the knife, but overall he's done such an amazing job and so much for the sport of golf over the history of his life. Obviously at this point we send our condolences as well, and we wish him all the best. But let's get into the show tonight, Gerry. We're going to start with the NHL goes to Lake Tahoe. I don't know what your thoughts were overall. I mean, is the outdoor game dead to you? I mean, there was a lot of hiccups here, and unless you stayed up on the East Coast to watch the Avalanche finish that game at 1 a.m., I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, these outdoor games to me, true Canadiana is playing outdoors on a pond, on a rink, in the snow, all around. And I know the NHL's tried to do that and have fans there in these stadiums and or ballparks that they've had them. But this was true Canadiana, where you had it outside, and it was just in the middle of nowhere. It was and of course there was the lake nearby, but they weren't playing on the lake. They were going to play on an ice surface. But it just gave me that feel. And again, no fans, gave you the feel of just, you've just tuned into a bunch of guys out playing shinny. But certainly the planning of the event, and, even here in New Brunswick, and the sun's out, it's very warm this time of year. And you can think in Lake Tahoe, which is a lot further south, that they had to make some precautions. They didn't, which hurt them in their time slot that they wanted, which was the afternoon rather than the evening. So that seemed to put a kibosh and stuff.
Look, to me, I'm not a fan of the outdoor game. I never have been, but at the same time, I get why they do it. It's a marketing thing. It is for the fans. That's what you want to see. It is great publicity for the National Hockey League. As far as backdrops go, you cannot take anything away from how beautiful the photos were to have Lake Tahoe behind that rink surface. But I think this is a huge miss for the NHL, because how could you not expect the sun to come out in the middle of the afternoon? It's mind-blowing to me. But overall, they did get to finish the game. But I think the best part of that entire event was getting to watch the Boston Bruins come out in their like retro gear with the shades on, having the conversations. I think that was absolutely perfect. So overall, I think it was a miss this time, but hey, I get why it happened.
Well, the other news in the NHL is Sidney Crosby hitting his 1,000th game. And, there was reading an article about him the other day, and the fact that, he missed a long spell of time because of concussions in 11 and 2012, I believe. And now he's got almost 1,300 points and still, to me, one of the best players ever in the NHL. I don't want to, put him in the top 5, but quite an accomplishment to hit 1,000 games. I think he's the only Penguin to do so.
You are right. Of course, Mario Lemieux got hit with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so he was pulled out of the game a little earlier than he would have liked. Great to see him come back, because I have no doubt in my mind he would have gotten to that point where Sid is today. But you're right. It's an absolute fantastic accomplishment from Sidney Crosby, an East Coast kid coming out here. We've watched him dominate the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League for a couple of years, and now his jersey is retired league-wide here in the QMJHL. But again, no surprise, Sid playing his 1,000th game. I saw some great promos. They did a great video. Alexander Ovechkin sent a promo in wishing Sid all the best. It was no surprise to me. And as far as him being top 5, I would say, yeah, you could probably throw Sid in there top 3 of all time. He's still the best player in the world.
Yeah, Chris, still on the vein of Pittsburgh and the great accomplishments of Sidney Crosby. Do you think the Pittsburgh Penguins are somewhat second guessing about their goaltending decision they made a few years ago? And Marc-Andre Fleury, who's doing so well in Las Vegas, Matt Murray, who has now moved on to Ottawa and seems to be struggling there. Do you think they ever sit back and think, when they moved him, do you think they thought he was done?
I don't think they thought he was done. I think they were looking to make contract room space when he went to Vegas, of course, in the expansion draft. They thought Matt Murray was their guy. Overall, I agree with you. I mean, Matt Murray came on in and basically helped that Pittsburgh win that other Stanley Cup that came on through. But they always seem to forget that Marc-Andre Fleury got them to that point during that season. Yeah. I mean, he got them into the postseason that way. Matt Murray is just, Matt Murray's played, you say he wasn't playing very well. He's had a bad couple of games against Ottawa. But overall, he has played fantastic the last couple of games. I mean, especially if you're a Habs fan, you hate Matt Murray. But overall, it's one of those things where you had to make that decision. In fact, I'm still surprised. Like, I know we've talked about it time after time. I don't understand how Edmonton didn't make a push to get Matt Murray during free agency. Like, it made no sense to me. He was available. They should have got him.
Yeah, there was a lot of goaltenders up for grabs for Edmonton. And Edmonton seems to have turned a little bit of a corner of late and found themselves in the top 4 of the Canadian division, but it's still a long way to go, and I'm going to be curious to see what happens. Chris, there was news today that there was no cases of COVID in the province of New Brunswick, and I know the Q. We've got a section in the Q that we're going to do on this particular episode, of which you've had the opportunity to talk with Gilles Courteau. Where do you think? Do you think we're a week or two perhaps away from the government leaning towards letting these 3 teams in New Brunswick play?
Wow, that's a great question and a great transition, because you are right. For anybody, make sure you stick around to the end. I had a great conversation with the commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Gilles Courteau, and I asked Gilles that exact question, Jerry. Where do we stand right now? And as you'll see in the interview a little later on, it's still up in the air. There is no answers right now. I would think we've got to be. I mean, we had no reported cases at all here today. We've got to be close to yellow at this point, whatever that means, or the new yellow, or yellow is the new orange, or whatever sitcom you want to run with it at this point. I don't know overall exactly how it's going to run, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I would like to see it. There's no reason why not. In fact, actually, before we transition out, speaking of the QMJHL, it just hit me and it's a hot topic. Got to give a shout out to Anderson McDonald signing in the WHL too, which is the first time I remember. Obviously played for Sherbrooke, played for Moncton, played for Bathurst, played for his hometown in St. John, but then picked up in the WHL. And it's very rare we see Q players signed as free agents going out the other way versus vice versa.
Yeah, it is intriguing. And the other thing about the opportunity for the New Brunswick teams to get back is I think the government's really hesitant about the spring break. And I'm thinking to myself, well, spring break, a lot of kids are at home anyways doing their work from remote connections to their high schools, let's say. And I don't think anybody's planning to travel anywhere. I mean, the kids are going to be maybe home a little bit more. Maybe they will get together a little bit more. I don't know. I don't see that as being, spring breaks coming. We got to protect against people getting together. But we'll see what happens.
So the big thing I say about that, I think where their big concern was, and I have family up in Fredericton, Jerry, and I was talking to them, and to me, what really bothered me about everything going on, and I understand you're trying to get away the social distancing and how it's all working out. St. John city officials were out throwing, Fredericton city officials were out throwing boulders and sand and salt all over the ice surfaces. You think about this, like if there's nothing going on, you and the boys or you and the girls are going to go out there and you're going to play some pond hockey. But if there's no rinks available to do that in, so I'm really hoping that everything kind of alleviates a little bit and they allow those people to, because other than that, you're absolutely right. I mean, they don't want the big gatherings. This is why they didn't open us back up into orange once the Super Bowl happened, because they say, we gave you Christmas, we gave you New Year's, you dinked it. So we're not going to give you the Super Bowl, but hey, spring break, March break's coming up. So maybe there'll be a little more leniency and then maybe we'll see yellow.
So stay tuned, because Chris is going to interview the president of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League with a lot of poignant questions about what the future holds in the Q and in the CHL. So That'll be fun. Chris, I've had a lot of fun watching the Raptors lately, and they're over 500 now. They're 14-7 since they started 2-8. I've fallen back in love with them from what I saw from their championship season. They're winning clutch games against some big teams.
Not just winning clutch games, Jerry. They're winning it without Kyle Lowry. And you got to remember, Lowry's been out for a while. This has to be the point where the Raps make the decision to let Fred VanVleet run the offense. One of your biggest blue chips outside of Pascal Siakam, which is not going anywhere, although he was rumored as part of that potential James Harden trade where people were on cloud nine for a couple minutes. But overall, yeah, if you're the Raptors right now, you have to take this as an opportunity to look at maybe it's time to move Kyle Lowry. Maybe it's time to go. And depending on, I was even looking for destination spots for a guy like Kyle Lowry. And as much as this hurts me to say, he would look good in a Laker uniform based off injuries that are happening in LA right now. I mean, they're going to need a solid point guard. I mean, Montrezl Harrell looked unbelievable. Anthony Davis is out for some odd weeks. The Lakers are going the absolute opposite way the Toronto Raptors are going right now. It would be a good fit, whether that happens or not. I don't know. But yeah, no, the Raps have been unbelievable, and you have to be excited. I mean, yourself, our producer Jason's a big Raptors fan. We chatted off camera a little bit in regards to maybe we were falling out of love with this team a little bit, or you guys were, because I've never been in love. But overall, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They're exciting. In my opinion, arguably the hottest team in basketball, bar none.
Yeah, they have. The Brooklyn Nets have been making some noise out west and on a Western road trip that they've made. If they've got their big three stars,
right?
The three stars are playing well. But here, the Raptors here in the East have quietly beaten Milwaukee twice, beat Philadelphia, beat the other teams that they're supposed to beat. But to go 14-7 after, once they went 2-8, Chris, it's oh God, has the shine gone off these Raptors? Just the season without Kawhi again. Has it starting to wear? But Siakam is starting to be the guy he's supposed to be, which is a guy that doesn't need to go to the hoop every time, but to drive the hoop, jump back, take his little jump shots, and how important that is. And VanVleet has been deadly from three-point land, so that's been their biggest part. And of course, Nick Nurse team has always been well coached when it comes to defense, and I think that's part of their success too.
Well, without a question, and I say it time after time, whether I like the Raptors or I don't like the Raptors, Nick Nurse should win head coach of the year every year for the last 3 years. He's one of the best coaches the NBA's ever seen. He reminds me of a young Phil Jackson, I guess, if you want to go that route. But overall, you're absolutely. But I want to ask you, as a Raptors fan, now based off the success you're seeing today, is their 2-8 start? Like, do you even remember that anymore? Like, I mean, it's irrelevant.
There was 5 of those 8 losses that they were right there and should have won or could have won and didn't get a bounce or didn't get the final shot. Wasn't made. Remember, there was a couple times Siakam there had a couple chances to win games and never did it. And I do remember that. I said, well, geez, 2-8 looks so bad. Do they rebound from that? And certainly they have. And but the word around the NBA is the Brooklyn Nets are the ones to watch now. And there's big talk about the Utah Jazz. Not that I know a lot about them, but they lead the Western Division or Western Conference even ahead of the Lakers. But to say I know anything about them, no, I don't. I just watch the Raptors and watch how they beat the good contenders in the East, and they've done that here in the last few weeks.
Oh, you're absolutely right. The NBA is fun to watch. Raptors fans have every reason to be excited again right now. A topic that's not on the sheet, Jerry, but it's a big name that we got to talk about quickly before we move on is Carson Wentz is an Indianapolis Colt. That deal is done. I finally have a quarterback to be thrilled about again. Hopefully, ? We don't have to get too deep into it. But do you see any potential chance that Carson Wentz, reunited with Frank Reich here in Indy, could bring back the Carson Wentz that had the MVP season a while back?
Well, first of all, if he doesn't get number 11, so be it. Try something new because he's going to start a new chapter in Indianapolis.
I
have my my hesitation about Wentz. And yes, maybe there is a guy that needs to be his cheerleader and somebody he's very comfortable with that will make a difference. And we'll wait and see what happens there. He's not a guy that I have a whole lot of faith in, but certainly the Indianapolis Colts needed a quarterback and they found one and somebody that their offense coordinator is comfortable with. Chris, before we go, I want to touch on the Scotties Tournament of Hearts that's underway in Calgary and what a great job they're doing out there. And that the fact that this is in the last year, the only Canadian championship that's been vied for. And I find that intriguing, and I find the curling's excellent, and I love watching curling every night, and you get to see it all week long. The Scotties has been fun.
I'll tell you, my favorite part about this entire tournament has been the group conversation going on between me, you, and producer Jason. Listening to you two babble back and forth and just chirp each other has been great. But I want to get your thoughts on, I mean, yes, curling has been exciting. The Scotties has been great. But overall, I'm so impressed. You brought it up in regards to the fact that the tournament's even taking place.
Again, and in the same complex on the Olympic grounds, I think it is.
Right.
They are going to be there for the mixed nationals. And of course, the Brier is going to be there. And I think that it's about 2 months of activity at this curling venue. And the interesting thing I heard during the broadcast was the fact that there aren't any people in the stands, and the fact that the doors of the rink aren't opening and closing, that the ice maker said there wasn't enough humidity in the rink. So they need humidity, because if it's dry, when he's throwing his pebble down, now I'm getting real technical here. When he's putting his pebble down, it evaporates before it hits the ground, which made it difficult for all the players in the early going to figure out the ice. I think they've got it figured out now, and the curling in the midweek is starting to be real good.
No, you're absolutely right. And I love it when you start talking technicals. I like it when you talk to me that way, Jerry. I like it when you talk to me that way. But no, you're right. And I mean, again, I'm not a professional pebbler. I don't understand. It's an art form. It's like watching the ice crew go at a hockey game. I mean, this is what they do, and they would know better than anybody else. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, science is science. And if there's no humidity, then it's just not going to work.
Well, I like the fact that they went to added 3 wildcard teams, and so made the field 18 teams. And so the top 4 from each division will move on to the next round after a round robin. So I find that a new wrinkle, and curling does look at new wrinkles. The other thing that came from the broadcast, and of course Vic Rauter's there, and he does the best job ever in curling. I don't think there's anybody that could do curling better than Vic Rauter, is they talked about that the rocks didn't have those little lights on them. So if you if you didn't let go of the rock before you hit the hog line, that the light would go on. I don't know why they didn't have enough time to ship these babies in and wash them down and get them ready. I just don't understand.
Technology, man, it'll get you every time. And but no, you are right. Who do you think, like, who's been your favorite to watch so far?
Well, I have a fondness for Manitoba, and Team Canada with Carrie Ernesson is one of the teams I like to watch. And there's another team. 3 of the wildcard teams are from Manitoba, and the one I like there, her name's Peterson, Beth Peterson. I've liked the way she's played. So Arneson, Peterson, and of course Rachel Holman's got a new little look to her team, and she's at the top of the standings. And Jennifer Jones is always going to be there at the end, but. I just love curling, be it men or women's, mixed, whatever it might be. I find it very fascinating how they get to make the rocks do what they're supposed to do every night.
No, have you ever curled before?
Yes, very much.
Oh, I'm a terrible curler, but it's the most fun I've ever had on a sheet of ice. But I can tell you, it is the toughest sport I have ever played. And if you've never done it, don't crap talk it, because I'll tell you right now, it is tough. Jerry, that's going to do it for us. This is crazy. It's been another episode that's flown by. We hope you guys have had much fun as we had. Make sure you stick around, though. Again, we had a chance to talk to the commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Gilles Courteau. That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday.
See you then.
Joining us now, we have a special guest, the commissioner of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Commissioner Gilles Courteau. Gilles, thank you so much for doing this. I know things have probably been extremely hectic for you, probably one of the 5 busiest people in the country outside of our Prime Minister. So thanks for taking time to do this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, Gilles, the reason I wanted to talk to you today is obviously with a lot of everything that's kind of gone on this season. Jerry and I have made it very clear many times on our show that we tip our cap to you and, how you've handled this pandemic and how you've been able to get a return to play in action. There's been some hiccups along the way, but overall, you must be pleased with how things have come together.
I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased about what's going on right now, Chris. When we've made a decision back in late July to return to play, the first group of owners that they've agreed to was the one from the Atlantic division, that they've agreed to be back on ice and return to play. They've accepted all the points that I raised on the importance of having our teams back on ice, and was a good positive push when I got back to Quebec division teams and asked them similar situation, and we had similar response from them, which was a good thing. And as you said, we down the road, we have been facing some roadblocks, but and we had some particular situation, but we went through it. We're still in a particular situation, as an example, with New Brunswick. But other than that, our players are playing, coach are coaching, and referees are refereeing. But the most important thing that, Chris, that I have to share with you this morning is how impressed I am about the discipline of our players and teams for what they have to go through, being isolated, tested, and all that, to make sure that they're not positive and they can play hockey and all that. It's very impressive, and hats off to all our teams, for the great effort that they've put together since the month of August.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I've chatted with a few general managers around the league, and they've all said the same thing. The disciplinary has been absolutely fantastic. The kids are taking it very serious as well. I mean, they understand what's at stake here. And, the way that this entire league has been able to come together out of the big three across this country is absolutely phenomenal. But I want to bring up, you mentioned the challenges in New Brunswick. Now that things are kind of starting to see a bit of a transition color-wise, has there been a conversation with the New Brunswick government about a return to play plan?
We're having conversation on a regular basis with New Brunswick Public Health. We came with a couple of ideas, and too bad that didn't work with them. So I think that we, as of today, I think that our options are very thin in regards of return to play for New Brunswick teams. But, we'll continue to talk to them and see if there's a kind of an open for us to bring back the players, because in New Brunswick, the three teams, their last game that they played was the last week of November. So it's been a long time since they've played a game. Moncton has been the last team to be back on ice and resume practicing. Bathurst and St. John, they've been good at it. So a practice is not the same as playing a game. Players are missing competition. We understand all that, but again, just go back to one of my earlier point in regard of discipline and all that. The wish of our teams, the wish of the players is to get back on ice and play games sooner than later, but they understand the situation and they're very respectful towards, public health decision. I can understand that maybe there's some frustration because, we're dealing with kids between the age of 16 to 20 and, they want to play, and we understand the situation, and we're doing everything we can to put them back on ice and on a regular hockey game, just to create some activities for them, something new. This is what they're missing, and we're looking at all the options we might have to have them back on ice to play games.
So I'm sure you've been asked a lot, and I know you've put a lot of thought process, you and your team, to doing this. I mean, how late into the year could teams start back up and still take part in a playoff run? Have you guys even talked about that yet?
Well, we're right now, we're doing our league schedule on a weekly basis, just to see what we can do. And I think, Chris, one of the most important thing for us is we're waiting for a CHL decision that we should make in early March in regard to Memorial Cup. As soon as we know if there's going to be a Memorial Cup or not, we'll be in a better position for us at the league level to establish when our regular season is going to end, when the playoffs are going to start, and what kind of format we'll put in place, and go from there. Because, if there's Memorial Cup, we'll adjust accordingly. But if there's no Memorial Cup at that time, I think that we'll be in a better position, as an example, to give the opportunity to our Maritime division to play close to 60 games.
So when the season started, I mean, the best part about talking to you, Gilles, you've always been extremely candid, and that was, the plan this year is to award a President's Cup one way or another. You plan on getting these kids a championship. And, you know, if you look at how that plays out, you mentioned the Memorial Cup. You know, as of right now today, being in touch with other commissioners across the league, is there still a plan in place for a Memorial Cup right now, or is everything just sort of on hold?
No, there's still a plan in place for Memorial Cup because we have an agreement with Sportsnet and TVA in regards of the Memorial Cup. We have commitment with excuse me, with sponsors on Memorial Cup, so it's a major event. And in over 100 years of Memorial Cup, you know, last year was the first time ever that we had to cancel Memorial Cup. We'll do everything we can to play Memorial Cup this year. But as you can see, we're in February right now. Memorial Cup is supposed to be held in Ontario. There's two teams that they've put a bid forward, Sault Ste. Marie and Oshawa. So, you know, we'll see what is going to be the result of it when Dave Wren's going to be in a position to get back to us. Because right now, Dave and his league, they're still in negotiation with Ontario government to look at the possibility to be back on ice and resume playing. It's not easy down there in Ontario, but I think that there's one thing could help the OHL is the return of the NHL, but more importantly, lately, the return of the American Hockey League teams, that they're allowed to play some home games in Ontario. So that should help the OHL. We'll see what's going to happen after that. You know, would it be possible for the OHL and or the WHL to determine a league champion? Or are they just playing a regular season games and that's it, you know? So all those things are going to have to be put forward and in front of us to make a final decision. So I'm not expecting us as a CHL executive to be able to make a decision before early March.
Gilles, that's absolutely fantastic. Thanks again for taking time out to have a chat with us today. I know every time we get a chance to chat, like I mentioned earlier, it's usually in the rink. So it's a little different, but it's definitely good to see your face and know that everything's still running well for you. So congratulations on all the success this year. I know it's been challenging, but again, we tip our cap to you and everything your team has done to make this happen. We're looking forward to seeing what happens the rest of the year.
Thank you, Chris. Nice talking to you.